This is NBR This Week, a look back at our leading stories. Shares of New Zealand banks rose as the New Zealand banking sector digested the Australian Royal Commission's report outlining widespread misconduct in the banking, superannuation and financial services industry across the Tasman. The report contained 76 recommendations, and according to media reports, the Australian government has agreed to adopt 75 of them. Analysts say the local stocks rose despite the scathing Hayne report because they were mirroring what's happened with shares in their Australian owners, given the outcome wasn't as bad as expected. New Zealand-born Phil Cronacan will take the reins of the BNZ's parent in Australia. The main response from the local Australian-owned banks is that they're already putting their own houses in order ahead of an end-of-March deadline, responding to the Reserve Bank and FMA's review of conduct and culture published in November. The government has already agreed to fast-track customer protection measures in the financial sector following the review and a more damning insurance report last week by the regulators. New Zealand's third largest aged care provider, Oceania Healthcare, may have lost a fight with the taxman, but it's still ahead on cash. Oceania's full year accounts to May 31st, published last July, showed the IRD disputed the company's tax treatment of deferred management fee income in its 2016 financial year, meaning a tax liability of $5.4 million. The IRD's binding ruling required the same tax treatment to be applied to 2017 and 2018, so Oceania had to recognise $6.1 million of tax on its deferred income in its latest interim 2019 accounts. But Oceania is still ahead because it can offset the income against other tax losses, and its interim accounts recognise a deferred income tax benefit of $4.5 million. Oddly, the IRD won't release its ruling publicly or even confirm its existence, no matter that Oceania refers to it in its accounts. Milford Asset Management has been one of the star performers in Morningstar's KiwiSaver for December quarter 2018. The Milford KiwiSaver Active Growth Fund topped the performance across all multi-sector categories over 10 years. According to Morningstar, Milford's approach was originally as a domestic equity fund, but since the launch of KiwiSaver in 2007, it's expanded to other offshore markets and to investments across classes. KiwiSaver assets on the Morningstar database grew to more than $50.1 billion at December 31st. ANZ leads in market share with more than $12.3 billion, ASB taking second position, followed by Westpac, AMP and Fisher Funds. The Opportunities Party is urging the government to be bold on a capital gains tax and include all assets, even the family home. It's a message that drew the highest number of comments from NBR subscribers this week. Top leader Jeff Simmons made the call as the government begins considering the Working Tax Group's final report, which is due out later this month. Mr Simmons, who relaunched Top late last year, says he's sceptical that a comprehensive tax that excludes the family home will make any difference to runaway house prices.
I mean, you can either, increase the tax on the family home almost like a rate, or you can reduce the taxes that go on other forms of capital, such as, retirement incomes. And that just reduces that distortion to put all of your money into housing. That's New Zealand's big problem here. We stick all of our money into housing. We wonder why inequality rises. We wonder why our businesses perform so poorly because we invest in our businesses so little. And our tax system is at the root of that.
The founder of Orion Health has sought to have his software company delisted from the NZX, with a proposal to acquire the rest of its shares and take it private. In documents disclosed to the NZX, Ian McCrae notified the company of a takeover offer for the 14.4% of Orion shares he doesn't already own, alongside a lock-up agreement with several shareholders, rendering the takeover a done deal. Grafton Health Holdings, associated with Mr McCrae and director Michael Falconer, filed the takeover notice on Wednesday. The Orion board is now considering the terms and will appoint an independent advisor to report on the merits of the offer. Under the terms of the lockup, several shareholders have agreed to accept the proposed offer, taking Mr McCrae's stake to 93.5%. A holding of more than 90% allows the compulsory acquisition of all remaining shares. Responding to NBR subscriber comments, Mr McCrae said remaining listed makes little sense, with a negligible float and liquidity in the company. He described the fall in Orion's share price and associated shareholder losses as personally devastatingly disappointing for me and the one major failure that I've had in 30 years of business. NBR's Calida Stewart-Menteith speaks to Head of Private Wealth Research at Craig's Investment Partners Mark Lister about the week on the markets.
So how did the New Zealand markets perform in the week that's been?
It's been quite a buoyant week. The markets had a reasonably positive performance, and I think that's largely been driven by a few specific factors. We obviously had the Royal Commission banking report come out of Australia, and it was a little more benign than some people were expecting, so that gave the Aussie market a bit of a boost, and the Australian banks that are listed on our market performed well. We sort of were dragged up on the back of that. We've also seen A2 Milk and Synlait do quite well, whether that's sort of related to what you've seen on the dairy price front or whether it's just positive sentiment, maybe a bit of both. Fisher & Paykel Healthcare's had a very good week. That could be related to the Kiwi dollar softening a bit against the US dollar. That's obviously good for them. And with people out there feeling that interest rates are going to stay lower for longer, we've seen some of the companies that pay reliable dividends do reasonably well too. So, a couple of the property trusts have had a reasonably good week. So it hasn't been a bad week for the market, and the strong start to 2019 has so far continued.
And looking ahead to next week, Shoeshine takes a look at Reserve Bank Governor Adrian Orr and how he measures up compared to his predecessors. And also look out for our OCR preview ahead of Wednesday's monetary policy statement. So for more on that and other stories, head to our website and have a fantastic weekend.
To unlock your 2 free articles a week, head to nbr.co.nz.